Hello, 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 and welcome to the Drag Race All Stars Season 10, Episodes 1 and 2 recap here on RHAP We Know Reality TV. I'm one of your hosts, Beth Dixon, and I'm excited to talk about a brand new format. We've got tournament style, we've got queens that you haven't heard about in years, we've got queens that you've heard about too much in years past. But I don't have to break all of this down alone. I'm excited to bring in my co host for All Stars 10, Aman Adwin. Aman, how are you doing? What are your thoughts on this first couple of episodes?
I'm excited. I'm very excited to be back, even though it was like 2 weeks since we've been back since.
It's been so long. I
I
don't know how
feel
I
like
made it through the
Lydia.
last 2 weeks. Yeah.
I feel exactly like Lydia. But yes, I'm
True.
excited. I think that this was like a lot of us were sort of had a little bit of trepidation about how they were going to do this with this many queens, and it turning into like one of those long seasons. But I feel like what they've chosen to do thus far is sort of like a nice happy medium. I'm excited to talk about it, and I'm excited for a lot of these queens to be back, even though we sort of have to wait for a few of them to make their first appearance. But I'm excited. This definitely has caught my attention for sure.
I agree. We've had some pretty wonky formats, I would say, over the past couple of All Star seasons. They kind of struck gold with All Stars 2 and then tried to milk that for all it was worth and then made little changes here and there. And it wasn't until they started bringing in lip sync assassins and that kind of thing where all of a
Mhm.
sudden, in the casts were maybe not as all star oriented as they were second chances oriented at times. And I think that this format really allows for quote unquote second chance queens to showcase that they are an all-star. So I'm excited to see what happens with this format. Obviously, again, we are in the 10th season of All
Yes.
Stars, which is crazy. We have 18 queens. And as I look at this again, I just need to do the counting off the top of my head. We have two queens who have been on All Star seasons before, and we have one other queen who's been on multiple seasons with Cynthia Lee Fontaine.
Yes.
Three queens who have been on All Star seasons before. I can't believe I forgot Ginger Minch. So actually, let me go ahead and share my screen for those of you who are watching on the YouTube video. And if you are not, feel free to check us out there. Leave us a like. That's always a good thing. But we have a little bit of the cast here. What we found out, Aman, is that the way that they're going to showcase this is 3 episodes, all 3 being each bracket. So we have the orange bracket, the pink bracket, and the purple bracket. Orange bracket is who we're starting with episodes 1 and 2. And Deja Sky went on Instagram and was basically like, the orange team, we are not happy.
Yeah.
We booked this to get gigs, to travel, to do things. And by the time people remember that we were on the season, lots of the bookings might not have taken place. So very interesting that they're choosing to do it 3, 3, and 3 rather than 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is going to make it feel, I imagine at the end of this is going to make it feel like a lot of these queens are on separate seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm already, I kind of already began to forget about the fact that we haven't met 12 out of the 18 queens that are going to make their appearance with just these first 2 episodes alone. So I definitely understand why they get take a little ire, but I also understand from a viewership standpoint, it's easier for us to sort of get to know what every queen is going to be coming back with, and every queen sort of gets their own redemption arc and to make their case for why they deserve to be a part of the top 9. So narratively I understand it, but
Yeah.
it does feel a little, a little off. It would have been interesting, I mean, because they could have just done 3, 3, and 3 filming wise and then
Yeah.
debuted it 1, 1, and 1. I think that would have been interesting, and it sort of like keeps you on the show for a longer period of time as opposed to you making your exit 3 episodes in, because you could just make the argument, oh, I was part of the first batch that was eliminated, you know what I mean, as
Right.
opposed to, oh, I went home, well, I guess it would be the same way, wouldn't it? Because I guess by week 3, wait, what would it be?
For by week 3 of filming for each tier,
2, 3.
they
So it'll be
we will
7, 8,
know
and
who is
9.
moving forward. So
Yeah.
next week we will likely be able to do math, I hope. I know it's drag math and all, but I think we're going to be able to do the math at the end of the episode next week to know who are the 3 queens that are going to be moving forward. So to recap really quickly, we have these 3 tiers of queens. Each tier has 6 queens. So we have 18 queens altogether. We have 3 episodes where all 6 of the queens within those tiers compete to get points. The top 2 get 2 points each, with the winner of the lip sync getting a third point. And then there are 4 points represented for each of the other queens, and they have to give that point to another queen. And they can't keep it for themselves. So there is some social strategy here, which I think is interesting. I do think that this actually really prepares people to do more of like a Big Brother Survivor-esque strategy to an extent. And we're already seeing queens try to figure this out with the relationships that they're coming into the season with. But at the end of those 3 weeks, we will know who are the 3 queens from that group with the highest amount of points who will go on to what they call the semifinals. Now, I don't know how many episodes the semifinals are. I don't know if they said that or not. So we're going to have 9 episodes before we even get to the place where the tiers are done, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder, are the semifinals, at that point, we're going to have 9 queens. Does it turn into like half the queens leave at, an episode later? That's going to be interesting to see how this structure takes place.
Yeah, I mean, it really feels like a battle of the houses, as
Yeah.
it were, with the way that they've chosen to do things. But yeah, I mean, this really could end up in a lot of different ways than I would have expected it to, because there definitely is always a bit of that. Oh, this is so and such and so's, third or fourth time back. Is this really just the season for them to win? But with the point system and the way that you can give away a point and how, alliances can take place, you never know. Things might not go in the way that you expect them to. So there's still a lot of intrigue left. And I'm
Mhm.
excited. I'm very excited.
And I will say, Aman, I don't know if you feel like this or not, but after watching this first group, I'm actually really excited to see how the other tiers gel or don't gel with each other. Because for those that didn't hear, I did go on the Reality Flash with Mike Bloom a couple weeks ago to break down this cast as a whole. And there's some really interesting connections, some of which that I didn't even necessarily know going into the like I didn't know that Olivia Lux was also a part of Mugler, the ball house with Aja. I knew that Aja was a part of the Mugler house, but I was like, okay, interesting. So we have 2 queens from the same ball house who are on the show. We have 2 queens from season 14 with Bosco and Deja on the show. We have 2 queens that are coming back on television as trans women who have done some transition with Bosco and Aja. We have a queen who's in this tier, Phoenix, who hasn't been on in like 15 years. And
Mhm.
she is also the drag daughter of Nicole Page Brooks, who's in the pink tier. So there's some really interesting interconnections that we'll see. Obviously, season 14 is well represented on the show. We have Lydia, who just finished, I think she has
Just
literally
finished.
like 3 or 4 weeks in between finishing wrapping season 17 and starting this. So she's going to be a wild card for that group. You've got a couple of people who are really fascinating in the purple group. You have 2 Puerto Rican queens with Alyssa Hunter and Cynthia Lee Fontaine. You've Acid Betty, who people have been wanting to come back for a long time. We've got lots of queens who can read the girls the house down. So I'm excited to see what all of these tiers bring, even if they're not necessarily all people I would have been handpicking as saying these are all stars.
Yeah, it definitely is like a mixed bag of all sorts of different stories that are all rootable, turnaround queens that haven't been here for a long time, queens that have something to prove, first outs, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I found myself not really knowing who to root for, because I kind of, there's a piece of me that was like, this is Ginger's time, maybe, she can finally snatch her crown. But then you see somebody like Aja in this batch where you're like, you know what? Yeah, like she had a rough go of it her first season. She, is doing what Lydia basically is doing right now and came right
Yeah.
back around. Maybe she was a little, she needed a little bit more time. And now she's, fully transitioned and she feels so much more at peace with who she is and knows how to separate her drag from her gender. And
Yeah.
I'm like, now I want to root for that. And then you have someone like Irene, who we all knew could give a lot more than what she gave. Even with just seeing her for what was it, like an all of 30 minutes on TV, and she's killing it too. So it's like, damn, like even getting to the top 9 right now is a lot.
It's pretty incredible. So why don't we go through the orange tier? We're going to quickly go through the entrance looks that we did get from Drag Looks's Instagram account. So thank you again to them. When I put this together, they did not have any of the runways from episodes 1 and 2. So I had to take screenshots. So warning ahead, some of them are a little busted. And I want to personally apologize to the queens more than anything else at some of these screenshots I attempted to grab. I am not good at it. But thankfully for these entrance looks, we have them. First up, like you mentioned, is Aja. Aja came out in this Rosalia Roserade Pokemon inspired jumpsuit with the boots, and I just immediately was like, "Oh my god, she's Roserade." I love this, and I was so excited about that. I love this look. It does feel like she's coming back to own pieces of her. We know in All Stars 3 she had some kawaii anime-esque kind of looks. And so it's kind of fun to see her still repping her nerdism while also just being so much more confident in who she is as a drag artist and as a woman.
Yeah, I gotta say, I didn't really grow up watching Pokemon, so when everyone was like, "Oh my god, I get it," I was like, "I have no idea what's going on." I just know that it looked good. And obviously this calls back to some of her looks back in All Stars 3. We know that she loves to bring a little bit of that anime and Japanese influence to her drag, and so I'm always going to be here for that. I think she looks amazing. I'm certainly happy to see her back. And yeah, there's just such a confidence that we all knew that she already had,
Oh
in
yeah.
her debut season, but it feels so much more refined. And I just can't wait to see what else she's got going on. And it feels like she's done a lot, just a lot of like work on herself,
Mhm.
and just you can just see in how she interacts with fans online and how she's interacted with the show as well, because there was a moment in time where she was like, fuck Drag Race, but
Yeah.
she's kind of come out of that. And not to say that you have to, like, if fuck Drag Race is how you feel, then fuck Drag Race, but it seems like she's made her own personal journey to the point where she's like, you know what, I think I would like to try again. And I love seeing that kind of journey, so I just can't wait to see what else is going on with her.
I agree. I think that she's already proven to me, at least in these first couple of episodes, that she is not here to mess around, but she also is here to mess around and have fun. And I think that that is so key. She took, as she said, she took drag so seriously because she couldn't separate her identity from drag, and now she can be loose and have fun and
Mhm.
such with it. So I'm happy to see her back. Next up is Bosco, another wonderful queen who has had some facial feminization surgery to go along with her transition, and obviously an incredible boob job. And she is so confident, and it is so lovely to see, because I always felt like Bosco was very confident on her season, but definitely lost that confidence as it went on. And we saw, season 14 with Carrie Colby being in the pink tier is also funny, but it's like, season 14 was the how many trans women are going to come out and be a part of the Carrie Colby gauntlet, so to say, right? And I love that Bosco comes back out and has I just like the command that I felt like she was wanted to bring in 14 but just wasn't there yet. And I'm just so thrilled with her for these first couple episodes. This
Mhm.
entrance look, oh my god. Oh
Yeah,
my god.
I was very excited to see her back as well. I never really connected too much with Bosco during her
Mhm.
first season. I think there might have been just a lot of other queens that I was either more interested in or just a lot more going on. And her season was also just very fatiguing because it was like with the chocolate. It was just too much. It was so much going on with her season. But I think that since her time on Drag Race, following her outside of the competition, It's been interesting to see, her take on a more, layered level, a more
Mhm.
individualistic level, something that isn't as tailored for Drag Race. So I feel like going into this season, I feel like I understand her aesthetic a lot more, and I'm definitely here for it. And yeah, the girls are out this season. They are
Oh
here.
my God. I
They are
love this look
here.
too, just being very like if David Bowie went to an office job, but also had like incredible tits.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like there's just like so many
Yeah.
awesome aspects to this where like it's so queer and so feminine and also so severe. And I just love it. And I love this tie that goes in it's like goes into her tuck and everything. Like I just think it's so
Mhm.
cool. And she just looks absolutely fantastic. And I'm so thrilled to have her on this season. She was somebody I definitely wanted to see to come back for an all-star. So I'm excited to have her. Next up, her season 14 sister, Deja Sky, who first of all, I love this outfit of her coming out. You get the idea that she's definitely here for all stars. There's lots of stars and such. Not sure if I like the shoe with it. That's just my personal opinion, though. Um, we get to know a little bit about Deja's history since being on the show, which includes like she went to Mexico for weight loss surgery and almost died on the table. And a lot of this has been stemmed
Yeah.
um, from a lack of, I think, self acceptance and confidence and feeling like she's never good enough for people. And that's too bad because I've always said that she is one of my favorite mugs. I think that she paints in just such an incredibly beautiful, blended way that is still very drag and popped and that kind of thing. I think that she's a really wonderful performer. I agree with the assessment that she had where she felt like she did well. She just was overshadowed by people on season 14. And so I'm excited to see her be on the show and hopefully even if you can still see, especially I felt like in the second episode, some cracks in that confidence, but I truly do think that she is somebody that is so entertaining, and I just am excited to hopefully see her finish stronger next episode, and maybe she gets to move on to the next round. But what are your thoughts on Deja?
Yeah, it's such a crazy story to hear
Mhm.
about, and I don't know. It's just interesting because I feel like Finn is very much in again. I feel like we have um, done a lot of work as a society, specifically within the states, to talk about body positivity and encouraging people to love themselves for who they are, at any size that they are. And I think somewhere along the lines, that conversation got muddied with a bunch of like different people and organizations and medical associations trying to sell you certain things, and now we're witnessing sort of like the advent of all of these like these quick weight loss drugs and procedures. And I'm in a way, I'm glad that this story is sort of popping up on Drag Race, and not that it hasn't in the past. We've definitely had other queens do certain things to their bodies,
Mhm.
whether it be something for transitioning, or whether it be something for weight loss or whatever have you,
Mhm.
that sometimes the story isn't always as peachy as you would like for it to
Right.
be. And I'm glad that we are getting that different side of it. And she said, when RuPaul asks her during the work through later on, do you regret it? And she was like, I kind of do, because I almost died. Like, this was, I did a lot, and it was all because I thought that if I was in a thinner body, my career would be so much different. Maybe I would have more opportunities. And the thing is, she might not have been wrong about certain things. Like, she
Oh
might have been
yeah.
right. Like, and that's just a sad reality of it. But when you go back home at the end of the day, you have to be able to look at yourself and be like, that feeling that I am chasing, did I catch it now that it looks like this, or am I still, do I feel like I need to catch something else now? And
That
I'm
is such the key, Aman. As somebody who I was a smaller person for most of my childhood and all of my teenage years and in my early 20s, and I'm now a bigger person. And it is very different to navigate the world in a bigger body. Like you are constantly aware of the space you take up, which absolutely affects your mental state in how much space you take up with people's lives. Are you feel like a burden? Then you have all these other people who are saying, "Well, you're unhealthy and you're these things, and it's your fault." And the thing that was most healing for me was a dietitian who I was meeting with for the first time, and I was convinced was about to make me feel like shit. And the first thing she said was, "I need you to understand, due to your genetics and the situation that you found yourself in that led to your weight gain, this is not your fault. This was an inevitability that this was going to happen to you. And you're doing everything right now that you feel like you can with the tools that you have. And we're going to try to expand that toolkit, and we're going to try to give you everything that you need." Um, the weight loss doctor I see right now, I told her straight up, I tried Ozempic a couple years ago. I don't want to do that. I want to really try to be fixing my lifestyle so I feel better, so that if I were to ever go on a drug like that again, I'm doing the things properly and not relying on the drug alone like I was the first time.
Hmm.
And all of that, though, affects your mental health and especially how you view yourself. So I agree with you, Aman. I love that Deja came out here and shared this story. I I think that for someone like her who's so entertaining and loves acting and likes, volleying back and forth and doing that kind of thing, there is going to be a little part of her that I share, which is, oh, I'm taking up space from other people. I need to diminish my light a little bit. And we see that a little bit in episode 2 with the improv challenge and how she felt about it afterwards, that it was like a very warped idea of how it is. And I identified with that. And I'm not saying that that's all bigger people feel this way or anything, but I do think that that's a common theme. And I think that when you have rapid weight loss without really adjusting to having confidence in yourself of who you are, not what you are,
Hmm.
when you have that drastically change and you haven't had the time to acclimate, I definitely think that is a journey that she's still navigating. And so I'm excited to have her back on All Stars, but more than anything, I book Deja Sky, people. Like, come on, get her out there. I want to see her. I want to go to shows. I want to throw dollar bills at her. And I think that she's somebody that just genuinely has all that it takes to be an incredible drag race queen, but she's already an incredible drag queen.
Yeah, I agree, and I hope that she's able to whatever bit of validation or affirmation rather that she is looking for to get out of this season, whether it be from doing well or you know being with her sisters. I hope that she's able to get it, and I hope that this experience is kind to her. I really do.
I do too. She's also, like, in my opinion, one of like the rays of sunshine from season 14, of
Hmm.
somebody that I just enjoyed on my screen.
Yeah.
Um, but speaking of somebody I'm enjoying on my screen, Aman, we have Irene the alien. Irene famously, infamously gets out in the first episode.
Yeah.
And again, I have said this time and time again. Irene to me is the first and probably only first out queen that I feel like could come back on an all-star season and win. And boy, this first couple of episodes for her has kind of been proving right for me and my hypothesis. Irene comes out in a very alien-esque, tentacled, spiked motor jacket, Ursula gown. Like, she is just alien and sci-fi and fantasy with an incredible drag aesthetic. She knows how to move her body and her face. We learned that she has a BFA in these first couple of episodes. So, like, there's a lot that she's going to bring to the table. On top of the fact that I just love that she's a shady bitch. I love that. I love that we get her feeling her oats and getting confident, and but also coming back and seeing this as like I need to prove that I was worthy of the crown. I was worthy of competing against Sasha Colby, people. And I need to show that. And I think that she's done a good job so far.
Yeah, I'm excited to see her back too. I think she was definitely a lock. A lot of us considered her to be a lock to come back at some point, just in the
Yeah.
way that she went out. We knew that there was more to this girl. She made quite an entrance. Already, getting into that little bit of a tiff with Lux during the workroom in season 15, and just the general conversation around her, what she chose to do for her talent show was just such an interesting way to go out. So I think we all sort of knew that there was more to this queen, and it's sort of nice to know that what we have been seeing thus far seems to be very much what we thought we were going to get. I don't
Exactly.
necessarily know if it's always going to be in her best interest to behave in the way that she does, but um, I'm entertained nonetheless.
I do think that we have a cast of a lot of people who will just say what they feel. And
Mhm.
I like that. I like that. I like when we get a little bit of drama. I like when there's some reads and those kind of things. I don't like seeing people be like bad people, but I don't think that just because you read a bitch that you're a bad person, right?
Right.
Like, so I like that we have this test. I could I could see it being very feasible that Irene and Mistress Isabel Brooks end up in the, the semifinals, and it would be great to see the two of them getting back together and just reading the girls down again. I think that would be really fun. I love seeing this relationship between her and Aja developing where like they're a little shady to each other. And she doesn't back down from it. And I think that's
No, she
great.
doesn't.
Next up, we have Olivia Lux from season 13, who placed fifth. Olivia, to me, I always imagine. Now, can I also say, I'm not commenting. Obviously, I don't think it's right to do this. Does she talk about losing weight?
I
Because she definitely has. But I'm
Not from what I
okay.
remember off the top of my head. She may have, like in passing, but it definitely was not a part of her package in the same way that obviously it was a part of
Gotcha.
Deja's.
Yeah.
But I noticed it too. And she, she's talked about coming back with, this much more confidence. Because she did sort of enter season 13 being the whimsical queen, the cute queen, the cutesy queen, the Disney princess, and now she kind of wants to give a little bit more of a cutting and a raw side to her where she sort of sticks up for herself more.
Mhm.
Now, I would have to rewatch season 13, and I'm sure in the comments you will remind us. I don't remember her getting into too many conflicts to begin with in season 13. So I would have to go back and really remember what it is that she's referencing that she feels like she sort of has to make up for this season, because we get to see a little bit of it in the second episode between her and Bosco. So I am interested in that, and I do wonder if this is becoming a part of her storyline that eventually is going to set her up to sort of also be a bit of her downfall. Because the interesting thing
Yeah.
about All Stars is that everyone sort of has like a comeback edit, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that comeback edit is the thing that soars you through the whole competition. And sometimes it's like, I think you were focused a little bit too much on one of these flaws that you had to the point where you're not allowing yourself to just simply exist in the competition. And I can see a little bit of that happening already. Still a little too well. I guess it's not really too early to tell because it's there are 2 episodes.
We're two out of the three,
Out of the 3.
66% of the way through.
So we have one more episode to go before we really know the true tea.
Yeah.
But it's been nice to see her come back. It has sort of been nice to see her, assert herself a little bit more if that's what she truly wanted to do. But I never really considered her to be a weak person from my
Oh.
memory. I've always considered I just thought she was cutesy, but cutesy doesn't necessarily mean weak, at least not to me.
No, and I agree with you. I think that, season 13, you had Tamisha, Aman, and Candy Muse, and
Yeah.
people who were just loud personalities who had something to say, and they were going to say it, and
Yes, they were.
Olivia and Utica were kind of like, like the queens that made it far, but were very quiet, and I think that she did really well in the beginning of season 13 and then just kind of fizzled out. And what I love about seeing her come back is really, I think that she still is struggling to understand that she can push it a little further and she can be a little wacky and she can be even harder. But I do think that she's learned a lot from the ball scene. And I think that the way that she carries herself is very different this time around. There's a lot more confidence. There's a lot more, I am worthy of time and attention, and I will be demanding it. I'm not going to just let something happen in front of me. I love that, she has these different relationships with queens where she's made a good relationship with Deja, and she's made a good, obviously she comes in with a good relationship with Aja. And really the strategy is kind of centered around Olivia in these first couple of episodes of trying to figure out, what do I do with my point? Do I give it to Deja because Deja gave it to me, and I'm going to look like an awful person if I don't give it to her. And so that all of us end up with 1 point, or do I give it to my sister Aja, who I have, this alliance with, and give her a fourth point so that she pretty much is set, and then she's going to give me any points moving forward. It's hard to know what the strategy is when you haven't seen it done before, and when you are trying to make connections and you only have 3 weeks to do it. So she's been really fascinating to watch, not just on the stage. I think that this look itself is fantastic. I love this wig, is incredible. The like little like almost antenna like crystals poking out of the top of like the
Mm-hmm.
top knot uh, is incredible. It is so beautiful. I love this kind of hexagonic kind of gray silver look with like the nude illusion. She's always just so gorgeous, and so I love that she is very into this high glamour with like in sophistication, but also with edges that you wouldn't expect. And I think that that's something that she's always done really well.
Yeah, I agree. It's a little alien-esque. It's a
Mhm.
little, edgy, glamour, high fashion. It's definitely a statement piece, and so is her promo look. Really, it's like just
Oh yeah.
a piece of fabric that spells out the word love, barely covering her body. Yeah, I mean, you could definitely tell that she has been walking with the girls. She has
Hmm.
been, living that ballroom life in New York City. And she is feeling the fantasy and becoming the fantasy. And I live for that.
And you can tell, that she walks face, baby. You
Hmm.
know it. Speaking
Hmm.
of face, here is a face we have not seen in 15 years, Aman. We have Phoenix, the second out from season 3, from Atlanta, Georgia, coming on in. Phoenix infamously walks into the room, the workroom, for the first time. India Farah walks in, and they're wearing the same wig and similar outfits. We haven't really seen much or heard much from Phoenix on a drag race mainstream kind of platform, but she is an icon nonetheless. Nonetheless, for the longevity of her career, and I got to tell you, her looks that she's been showing, I'm pretty impressed with what she's coming back out with. It has been traditionally hard for queens in those first few seasons to come back and compete with where drag is right now
Hmm.
on television. And I think that she's doing an incredible job from an aesthetic point of view. This look in particular, living up to her name, it reminds me of Phoenix, like rising from the ashes. You have the black bottom of the dress, and then it becomes colorful and red and orange with this beautiful red hair. It's a debutante esque vibe. There's some regality here. Like, it is just gorgeous. So when she
Yeah.
walked around the corner, I went, "Ooh, we're gonna see some Phoenix here."
Yeah, I still have not gotten around to watching. Was it season 2?
3.
3, excuse me. I've still seen 4 and up, but I still have not sat my ass down. I watched like 3 episodes of season 1 because I was like, I know it's the potato camera season, but I felt like I gotta watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was cool, and then I fell off, and then I just never made my way back around. But one of these days, I swear that I will. So this is sort of like my first foray into Phoenix. I know who Phoenix is, given the fact that I've been a fan of the show that I've been watching for a very long time, and so I kind of have just gleaned all of my information from the first 3 seasons by word of mouth, by clips and lore and other authors' appearances and things of that nature. So I'm aware of her tenure on Drag Race. And I am always going to be rooting for the queens that are coming from these OG seasons
Mm-hmm.
because girl, yes. Like they were here before while a lot of y'all little gabies were just now watching. Y'all hardly even knew what drag was. Y'all just knew
Half
that
of them
y'all
weren't
liked.
even born.
Exactly. Y'all knew that y'all like to put on your mama's high heels, and that was it. And then you just see these queens on TV lip syncing. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh, I want to do that. And then you think you get on the show, and now that the show has grown to be this mega thing, and you get all this money, you're like, you forget about where you came from and who paved the way for all you hoes. Okay, so whenever there is an older queen on the show, I'm like, yes, yes, come back, show these little bitches what you're made of. And just because, the show is different, just because the platform is different, just because the challenges are different, just because you do kind of have to have a lot more money than you needed to back then, which is still effed.
Reach.
Come back and show these queens who you are. Don't shrink yourself. Don't feel like you have to hide and that you're not going to be as well liked because there's so many new and glitzy and more younger queens. Fuck that shit. Come in here and burn these bitches to the ground. And has Phoenix been doing that thus far? Not as much as I would like her to. But I take all of the struggles that she has having, and I like the fact that she clapped back to Ice Spice online.
That was brilliant. By the way, I'm sorry about it.
And for all the Ice Spice fans out there that are getting on, fuck y'all. I said it. I said it. Y'all are over here getting on this veteran queen over Ice Spice, a girl who just got here, who's probably on her way out. Let's be honest. I'm just saying. It's not even to be shady.
I know what you mean.
There are, when you get to a certain age, and I'm only 31. When you get to a certain age and you have been like a consumer of pop music, you kind of get a feel for which girls are going to be sticking around and which ones are going to be, a blip on the radar. And hey, a blip on the radar is better than something I'll ever do.
Oh, believe me. Listen. Ice Spice has every right to go on there and say whatever she wants. She's a guest judge. But she also, just like anybody else, needs to be aware that these are drag queens and they're going to speak their mind, and they're going to, if they take offense, they will say it. And I think that there's got to be a mutual respect for that. And if you're fans of Phoenix or Ice Spice, like just revel in the fact that your queen is getting some time right now.
Into it with energy. Ice Spice. I live.
Yes.
I live.
But I will say I think that Phoenix is running into the same issue she did in season 3, which is really acting challenges is her weakness. And a lot of it is similar to people that we even saw last season a little bit with Lydia, but just people who don't know what to do with their voice, like how to create levels, how to engage people in like a drag kind of way. It comes not monotone, but it's just kind of like, or Lana Jarre was like the person I'm actually really thinking of from 17, who has like this very, noticeable voice, but everything is going to be said the same way, essentially. That is her biggest issue, right? Is she's got to like kind of be able to shake off who she is a little bit to become a funny, over the top kind of character. But that said, I do think that she's doing an incredible job in a way that a lot of older queens or queens from older seasons sometimes struggle with, which is keeping up with the runway. And I think that she's been doing a good job keeping up with the runway.
Yeah.
So speaking of the runways, we're going to talk very quickly about the first couple of episodes and the challenges that we had. So in the first episode, we had a challenge called Winner, Winner, Chicken Dinner, where the queens had to write their own verse and get choreography by Jamal Sims to perform a heavy metal rock version of a song called Winner, Winner, Chicken Dinner. And in addition, they then had a runway that was slits and tits. And so we can talk about each.
Crazy when they just it's like y'all just came up with anything this summer.
I'm here for it. I can't wait. Half the time where they come up with like whatever, I don't even care what the runways look like as much as I'm like, that was a good theme name. I like that, So we've gotten to that point where we're, 27 plus seasons in on just the American versions of Drag Race, where we're thinking about that. First up, we have Aja. So Aja ends up being in the top 2 for Winner, Winner, Chicken Dinner. And for her runway, this is another Pokemon-inspired look where she's supposed to be Jinx, which is a psychic Pokemon, ice psychic Pokemon from Generation 1, is kind of the epitome of a drag queen. That is the drag queen Pokemon. And so she comes out. I will say that I thought that her performance was incredible. I think she had the best verse. I think that she did really well and owned the stage. Her energy was there. I just really enjoyed watching her. I always feel safe when Aja's performing, right? If there's music and Aja's on stage, I'm going to have a good time. and
Yes.
and she just killed it.
Yeah.
She showed us exactly why you don't count her out of anything. This look, as much as I love the Jinx inspiration, I was also very thrown off by the lack of continuity of the
Yes.
purple.
Yes.
I was not a fan of that. I I feel like the tits are look bruised rather than like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
I know what you
listen,
mean.
girl, I've been there, okay? I've been there. There are some hookups that have absolutely left me like that before. So I feel you, but I wouldn't necessarily show it off on the main stage. No. Um, I don't know if I like the gown. I'm going to be honest with you. I like the idea of the gown, but I just feel like it fits her in a weird way. Um, but I was happy to see her in the top two, and she killed it, I thought, in the challenge.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because there hmm, we all love Aja. Like she's probably one of my favorite queens out of the entire franchise. And I think there was so much hype around surrounding her coming into season 9. And season 9 is my first time sort of like watching an entire season live. I got into Drag Race around season 8 and caught like the tail end of it, went back and watched a bunch of it, and then season 9 was like my first like foray into like, being a part of it actively. And I remember there was, I was learning how preseason works for Drag Race and learning that it's a very spoiler heavy franchise and learning that people know about queens way before they get on the show. And so Ahu was just someone that just kept popping up on my timeline. People were like, "Oh my gosh, she's gonna slay! She's like New York City down. She'd be voguing the girls down. Like she knows how to dance." And you would see all these videos of her, and she would just be absolutely just performance was just like clearly what she was meant to be doing.
Mhm.
And I think that so much of that hype, there was so much of it going into season 9, and then Drag Race isn't necessarily NYC, it's a game. And I think that she didn't necessarily acclimate in the best way, and some of her runways were a little crunchy. And I think they're crunchy in a similar way to sometimes where Vanjie's runways can be a little crunchy.
Mm,
But at least with Vanjie's second season, or season into All Stars, it was a bit more refined,
yeah.
that she knew how to like edit a bit more. And I just hope that maybe it's just like a one off for her. I'm hoping that more, like when we get to see more of her runways, provided that she stays, that there's a bit more of that refinement, because she's already commenting online about like, she's like, "Girl, I don't know why I thought they were going to live for me on a fashion photo review, because I guess the girls over there are eating her up for some of her runways so far." And it's like, this isn't horrible, but I
No.
I totally understand why like people there was like a bit of a critique around her arms not being the same shade, and
Mhm.
the boobs do look a little off, and the dress is a little bit of a weird fit going to it. So I'm just hoping that was like, girl, just pull some of these looks together a little bit more, and I think
Yep.
that you could be good. Because watching you lip sync and watching you perform again, I was like, yes, this is what I have missed from
And
you
I
for
will
so
say
long.
this until the day is done. Um, Aja was robbed so hard in All Stars 3. She should not have gone home on the design challenge that she did. She had one of the best
Mhm.
outfits, in my opinion. Her outfits, her runways in All Stars 3 were great. So I
Mhm.
don't know, like, I really do think that like so far this is the one outfit that I've been like, nah, I'm not sure if I like it as much, especially for an all-star season. I just feel like it's not at that caliber. It doesn't feel like it's fitting her the way that it should. But I appreciate the reference. I appreciate her trying to do something unique and cool and different. And I think that she shows that she's doing a good job, you know.
Yeah. Oh,
Next up, we have Bosco, who also I thought did an incredible job in the challenge. She really, again, I think that she just has kind of a David Bowie esque
yeah.
aspect to her at times. Like facially, I think she just kind of reminds me of him, and she does a lot of like the mullet and not mullet, but like the hairdos and such that are very similar to what he would have done. She comes out with this beautiful number, which is like a motorcycle jacket, inspired to be kind of like a skirt. I don't even know how to describe this. And then with the corset and the pasties on the boob, and then like the random zipper places as if she is zipped up herself. I just thought, and
Mhm.
her hair is just incredible, like one of my favorite pieces of hair I've ever seen on Drag Race, period. I think like this outfit to me is one of the coolest things I've ever seen on Drag Race. And I truly, truly felt like if it had come
Yeah.
down to runways, I think Bosco could have beaten Aja getting into the top two. But I do think that Aja just was so good in the challenge that that's what put her over the edge of Bosco being in the top two for that first episode.
Yeah, just absolutely stunning. Just no notes, 10 out of 10. Just I don't even know what to compare this to. It's something within a league of its own. And yeah, the taste level when it comes to Bosco is just there.
It
It's just
is.
there. Because there was a little bit of, oh, you're just naked on stage in season 14. But
That
then,
was true.
when with some of her looks back then in that season, I was like, oh yes, okay, girl, like okay, I like this point of view, and it feels like she is really coming out swinging with these looks, and she's like, I do not want to go home. I want to stay here as long as possible. I don't need that chocolate bar this time.
That's
It's my time.
great. Moving on, we have Deja Sky, who I thought did a fine job in the challenge. I think that she um, I felt like she kind of went more for like a rap-esque thing than singing, and I don't know if it had the metal kind of energy that I was looking for with her. And I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah.
really the thing that differentiated the Boscos, Ajas, and somebody else that we'll get to in a second that really put them over the top of the other three. But not Asia, Deja, I loved this look, this idea of like a theatrical opera Renaissance-esque kind of big slit up the side. I just don't get the tits portion from her. But boy, is she beautiful. This is such a good color on her.
Yeah, it is a beautiful color. But yeah, it does sort of it's the booby part is missing for me. And I yeah,
The
the
booby
her
part.
her verse was a little off the theme.
Mhm.
Um I just feel like she didn't sort of like go as crazy as like she could have.
Yeah.
And that's when it comes to rock and metal, you have perfect license to just go absolutely ape shit,
Put your whole pussy into it, you know?
put everything out there. Like the choreography that Jamal Sims gives you, you can, as long as you are following the basic outline of the step, you can make it a little messy. You can give it a little bit more of this like unbridled energy. That's what metal is, at least to me. And I think
Yeah.
that was not exactly in her performance, nor was it in a queen that we're about to talk about.
Yes. So next up is Olivia Lux, who I love this Lil Kim runway, inspired
Yes.
runway. She looks so good. God, purple lavender on her looks so good.
It
Um,
looks like a dessert, like a raspberry, like something. She just looks so good.
like a soft serve,
Yeah.
like with the pink berry, and they had some
Mhm.
kind of like lavender something soft serve.
She
Just so
looks
good.
and I didn't realize that there was such a controversy surrounding Diana Ross, I guess fondling Lil Kim's boob.
What? I didn't know this.
Yeah, I guess like I mean I think it's largely remembered now. It's like a nice little cute little moment. But yeah, like she mentions it online, and then as I go online and I see a bunch of people saying, yeah, like the first thing that pops up is a recent interview from Mary J. Blige, and she was like, I was pissed when she did that. I was pissed off at Diana Ross. And then when you go back and watch it, because it's Lil Kim and Mary J presenting the award to Diana Ross, the moment that she does that to her, Mary is pissed. You can tell that she wants to get the fuck off stage. I was like, I had no idea. Like in my mind, all I see is, Diana Ross give a little boop, 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 and Lil Kim laughs. That's all I see. But I went back and watched it. And I was like, oh wow, she was mad.
Damn, I had no idea. No, I mean, I think it goes without saying that I think it's important to not touch people in sensitive areas, even with outfits that are more revealing without their express consent, especially
Yes.
if it's going to be broadcasted to millions of people. But that said, wow, I didn't know that. That's great. What did you think of Olivia's performance?
Just didn't go there enough for me. She looked great. I loved the look. Um, but it yeah, like what the judges said, I think was very correct. It just didn't read as metal. It didn't. She didn't let herself loose. She didn't let loose as much as she could have. It did feel very, very refined, and
Yeah.
that that could just be a little bit of her musical theater training. Maybe she didn't let enough of the, and when you're walking face, face isn't, face is just face. You're supposed to serve face.
Right.
And that's what she gave. And metal really isn't about face, girl. Like, you can serve face because you are a drag queen, but like, you better
Oh,
serve
we will
face.
talk about somebody who serves face coming up.
Yes.
But in a metal-esque way. I agree with you. I think that, her biggest issue is that this sounds so awful, but she's so pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that she knows how to channel prettiness in a camp way, channel prettiness in a grungy kind of way, or in that kind of thing. And don't get me wrong, gorgeous Olivia can get all my money just because I feel like I need to pay her for the privilege of looking upon her face. Like, don't get me wrong on that. But I do think, like, if she wants to grow as a drag artist in the confines of what you traditionally see on Drag Race, then you have to learn, how do I apply being pretty to something that pretty is not the point of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And metal is not about pretty. It's not necessarily about being in tune. And she has great vocals. She has a great voice, but that voice was just too sing-songy for something that for this kind of challenge. This runway, though, was probably one of my favorites. I mean, Bosco's was hands down my favorite, but this probably was like my second favorite runway.
Yeah.
Next is Irene, who I was referring to when I said, serving face, because my gosh, in the challenge, did she get a lot of face time. They put that camera on her as often as they could, because she was eyes wide, tongue out, didn't mind that she looked a little crazy. And I think that, again, comes from her drag aesthetic is very, very meticulous, but it is also taking things that are not traditionally seen as beautiful, like aliens and sci-fi and such, and making them glamorous. So I think she knows how to do that in a way that, somebody like Olivia, who does the opposite, I think it's got to be harder to come from a pretty perspective and try to make it not be the point. Irene does the opposite of it. And this is a perfect example, this runway for me. I love this, like, over the top showgirl-esque kind of vibe, but she's also an alien. Every detail of it is extravagant and perfect. I love the mesh rave top that's green as a means of, like, getting the paint to pop even more on her arms.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even though it is clearly a different shade than, like, her chest and face, like, it doesn't bother me, and it's
No.
because I know it's a top. And
Yeah.
I think that's a really smart way to go about it. Like, if Aja had some kind of purple on her, maybe we wouldn't have had as much of an issue. I still think those boobs would have looked very bruised, though. I don't know. I love this outfit.
I think what's so cool about Irene is that, she's definitely one of those queens that has a shtick and a point of view, but it's not, I feel like she's smart enough to know how to not make it repetitive, redundant. She's always going to give you Irene the alien, but she's going to make sure that it's something new, that it pops, that it's fresh, and that it's fun, and that it's easy to understand, and it's easily digestible. Which I think that's like the number one rule in Drag Race when it comes to a lot of these looks, is you just make it easy to understand, make it quick, make it funny, make it snappy, and make it intentional. Like don't just throw something together, but make it intentional. And honestly, as far as I'm concerned, bitch, I don't want to hear nothing about her not being prepared for none of these runways, because bitch, you prepared for an entire season that you were not a part of. Okay, so you need to have and now I understand that all the runway themes are gonna be the same.
Yeah.
But you have had a lot of time.
You probably have some leftover outfits.
And some leftover outfits that you can repurpose. So everything better look good, bitch.
You know what? She's reminding me, she's come into this competition with the focus that, like, Alaska had in All Stars 2, which was, I'm coming in, everything that I'm doing is intentionally exactly how is my aesthetic in my character, but it is also tailored to RuPaul. And I think that she's a very smart queen who knows how to play the game. She knows how to read people, and she also literally knows how to read people. But she knows how to make things digestible. And as you said, I think that is something that is really important for Drag Race.
Yeah.
And she does get the second spot in the first episode, and in the second one, she's in the second spot. Next up, we have Phoenix for the Slits and Tits. Has this kind of like gimp purple zippered up dress that I thought was so cool. Like, I'm not like a big BDSM person myself, but I just love people who use this aesthetic in different ways. And I feel like every time I feel like I've seen it all, this comes out and I'm like, oh, this was really cool. I would not have expected a queen from like season 3 to come down a runway with this kind of look and like the tit reveal. I will say that felt a little like almost like Ornacia trying to, pop out of the, the little head thing with Vivacious's entrance. But I just enjoyed how much Phoenix was living for this. And again, when it comes to the performance, though, I just thought that it was a little one note. You could tell she was really intimidated being on the stage. I do think that she, unfortunately, was the weakest in the challenge. Yeah. But I do love the confidence that she came out with this outfit and had fun on the runway. And that to me, it doesn't make up for the challenge, but that to me shows that like she has what it takes to really apply herself in a fun way in the competition.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that the presentation of the look was a little stilted. You could tell that. I mean, it looks like the dress is a little hard to walk in. She's wearing these very high heels, and the dress is very. You can tell it's very, very tight, very form fitting. But I do love the look itself. I love the present. I love like the purple, the shades of purple. It's just really, really fun. Yeah. And just very sexy and very sleek and just like very, very naughty and just very just. You can't look away when she's walking down the stage and then just ripping those boobies out, even though there was a little bit of the illusion was broken a little bit when the breastplate was coming off of her torso a little bit. So that was a little messy. But outside of that, I thought that it was definitely just very alluring and sexy to look at for sure.
It was definitely a lot of fun. In this first episode, like we said, Aja and Irene find themselves in the top 2. Aja does win the lip sync. I forgot what the song was. What was the song? Do you remember?
Something about farting.
That's the next episode, right? I think Ice Spice was second episode. I think it was Coleman Domingo was the first one.
Ice Spice was first one. She was the premiere guest. Gotcha. And then Coleman Domingo was Murder on the Dance Floor.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Okay. Yes.
What is it called?
You think you the shit fart.
You ain't a fart. Yeah, you think you the shit fart. There you go.
Yeah. So I did feel like Aja kind of wiped the floor with Irene a little bit. Yes. I don't think Irene did poorly. I just think that like Aja really captured. I mean, Aja says she's like, I'm Banji. Like, I get it. Like, it's fun to like come out here and just like perform that, and it's just more in her wheelhouse, I think, than Irene. So it was really fun to watch. This means that at the end of the episode 1, Aja has 3 points, Irene has 2, and then everybody else has 1 point that they all decide to give to each other. And so 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3 is what we go into episode 2 with. This is the second episode of Runway Looks. This was Coming and Going is the runway. The challenge was an improv challenge of a murder mystery where there was Mary Kate and Ashley, twins, that which one is dead, which one's not. And all of the various different people on a New Orleans, boat cruise, murder mystery where Michelle Visage as the hairdresser ends up being the actual killer. But it's what a fascinating improv challenge. Everybody gets their characters and they have ideas of what they're supposed to do with the character and like an idea of like what they're supposed to present as the background in their alibi and that kind of thing. But they have to improv with RuPaul.
Yeah.
And I felt like, as far as improv challenges go, this was a pretty decent one, Aman.
Yeah, I thought all of them sort of had like a nice understanding of what it was they were supposed to do. And quite a few of them really understood how to volley pretty well. With RuPaul, it felt like there was like a lot of like comfortability for the most part
Yeah,
with a lot of them. And I wouldn't be surprised, there was a little bit of prepping that they were allowed to do, obviously, to sort of like gain an understanding as to a few things, kind of like Snatch Game, where you kind of know a few things that you're going to have
yeah.
in your back pocket. I saw a little bit of that here, but it didn't really hinder the performance for me in any way. But yeah, this was definitely one of the better ones for sure. For sure.
I thought it was interesting. I've always said this. I think that Snatch Game can be hard, obviously. But I think when there's challenges like this, where RuPaul is also playing a character,
Hmm.
I think RuPaul is a very giving scene partner and does
Yep.
a really good job of setting up the queens to have good responses.
Yep.
And I think the queens that capitalize the most on that are the ones that do well in the challenge, the ones that are really listening to what he's saying, which is what improv is all the time, right? Improv is
Hmm.
listening and reacting off of the listening and saying yes to the situation. Um, so our first queen that we'll talk about is Olivia Lux, and I felt like Olivia was one of the weaker people in the challenge. She ends up being, she's supposed to be like an older, um, kind of like witchy, woman who ends up being like the mother of the twins that's like estranged and such. And she did a character that I didn't expect her to do, but I just felt like she didn't push it far enough. I felt like she was reserved, like she was going for safe answers and responses. I didn't really see her having levels in the performance, and it was overall like it was watchable, but I wouldn't have called it entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah, I think it was the simply fine.
Yeah,
I think that she sort of like. I think that she benefits for things that have a little bit more structure to them.
yeah,
But it wasn't bad, and I don't know
no,
how much of it was like we didn't see most of the bad parts, because I could see a little bit of like the All Stars glitz and glam editing going on here, where they want
Mhm.
to be very, positive forward, which I think is fine.
Yeah,
But you could tell that she definitely was not in her bag in the same way that some of her sisters were, for sure.
yeah.
A few dropped moments here and there.
That's for sure. But I don't think that she dropped the runway. I think once again her aesthetics are on point. This is such a beautiful runway. So the runway theme of coming and going is that the outfit is supposed to look inherently different from the front and the back. Obviously it does, but I kind of feel like not a lot of people interpreted this the way that I felt like it would have been done. Olivia is one of the people that I felt like I don't know. I just kind of felt like you shouldn't be able to see from the front what the back is going to kind of give, if that makes sense. So that's the one issue I had with it, because it should look like a very different outfit from the back or something. And I just this is gorgeous. I love the
Mhm.
idea that she's got huge florals on the back and at this like gala gown on the front. And I love the hair. Oh my God, I love the hair.
I
But also with the flowers in the hair, give it away in the back. So I don't know.
mhm. Yeah, I totally got the reference. I loved the Billie Holiday tribute. I love the wiring of the microphone, sort of like being a sort of applique on the dress. The runway theme in general was interesting because it's like coming and going, so it's really supposed to be two looks in one, as opposed to it being a reveal in a more like tearaway, type
Yeah.
of way. It's more of like a party in the front, business in the back, or whatever have you. And like I feel like I was fine with certain things being not as covered up, because I take what you're saying and I get it too, but like it's not really supposed to be a reveal, at least not in the way that they made it seem. So I'm like,
Right.
okay, well, like, if we see a little bit of it, whatever. It's a definitely more of a dramatic turn if it is a reveal. sure, but
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be, at least not for this one.
And I'm not saying it needs to be like a complete reveal or anything. I think that it's just if part of the front incorporates the back, then it just makes it so it's like, is it really a different look then, you know? But obviously, this is like, it is clearly a very different back than the front gives. I'm
Mhm.
being harsh.
Yeah.
But I do think this was gorgeous
Yeah, me
on
too.
Olivia. Next up, we have Irene the alien. I'm going to tell you straight up, just for the runway portion, I felt like this is something I expect to see on like UK Drag Race, like for a
Mm.
runway. It's very like campy and sleek, but not like overly draggy from the front. And then her reveal when she pulls the hair apart to have the little alien, and then the back is all cyborg. So for me, I was like, okay, that I did not expect coming out, and I like the reveal. It was a very kind of different idea, but is it
Mhm.
an outfit that's different? So like I just like again, I feel like when you have runway themes like this where we don't have a specific brief other than like a one sentence idea of what RuPaul is saying, um it opens it up to interpretation, and my neurodivergent ass just likes to have what is the brief so that I can know if it goes to the brief or not. um but she killed the challenge. I thought she had that wonderful trope of dropping the character halfway through. She could do an accent. She could, her eyes and her eyebrows were actors of their own, and
Mhm.
that to me is always like a good sign of a comedic actor, somebody who can really utilize everything on their face and be
Mhm.
intentional about it. I
Yeah.
loved her outfit in the challenge too. It all worked really well for her.
Yeah, I think, as far as we've seen a bit, like, from Irene, like, a lot of her looks have been very different. Like I was saying before, I feel like she, you know, visually, I think that she really gets how to, like, jump into an entirely different vibe and character, and still make it, alien-esque, or bring it back to her name. And I liked the commentary on, American politics. We all know that drag is inherently political. Is it a
Mhm.
touch on the nose, this look? Yeah, but I still think I enjoyed it only because it was just, again, it was like very easily digestible, fun. I like the fact that it was like a small little alien controlling a bigger body as opposed to
Yeah.
like just an alien being the person, like a shapeshifter. I feel like we've seen that trope a lot, but like it being this small little thing was kind of funny to me. And Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was just like a little triggering to see just like that powerful red Republican jumpsuit, turn into a robot. It did something to me.
It's so funny because in pretty much every other country, red is the color of the like more liberal party, and blue
Hmm.
is the conservative. So I'm sure other people were like, "Why are they making like if you are somebody who forgets that with America, if you're not from America, looking at this,
Hmm.
you're like, interesting. They have this commentary about the Democrats. It's like, nope, this is very very Republican for us."
Yeah, very.
But yeah, I loved the commentary. I thought she killed it in the challenge, and she was, in my opinion, very deserving of that top two spot.
Hmm.
Next up, we have Bosco, who also finds herself in the top two for this episode. Um, I didn't know if I liked Bosco's performance in the challenge at first. I felt like it was very one note. I wasn't getting a lot of like levels or playing with tone and voice and that kind of thing. But then she started doing the eye patch eye stuff, and everything
Hmm.
fell into place. And I was like, okay, she's genius now. Like, this is so ridiculous and stupid and funny and smart. And I love it. Um, and then she comes down this runway with a cinched casket. And then she comes out as Elvira, very pandering to the judges and the audience. But listen, play the game, people, play the game.
Yeah, play that game. And it was good execution too. Like, it's one thing to do Elvira, but it's another to have like a cinched coffin with it, which is a complete reveal and just very, very fun. Um, and yeah, I agreed. I thought her character at first, I was like, I don't know about this accent. I mean, you were getting into it with Olivia about these accents and everything, and this is not really giving, sis. But the physical comedy, I think, is what really came through
Yeah.
for me here. I kind of was like, I don't know, between you and Deja, y'all kind of both are kind of like right on the edge of being, pretty funny. And then I think that was sort of the whole eye patch bit, as Michelle even mentioned in the judging. I think really was like sort of like something that was like, oh, okay, so you're having fun with this, you are realizing this, actualizing this character, and yeah, I had a good time.
I think too that, quite frankly, I liked Deja's. I think Deja might be next, or one of the next ones that obviously we're going to talk about. But I just felt like this was an episode where the acting choices that Bosco went for were a little less predictable than what Deja would have. Deja did
Yeah.
really well. And I would not have been mad if Deja was in the top two. But I also think, again, having this cinched kind of coffin, like, look at that illusion of that coffin. Like, it looks like there is like 3 inches, and look at it completely open and you see like, oh no, there's a little bit more space for a body, but that is still
Hmm.
very, very tiny.
Yeah.
And you can tell Bosco is just loving showing off the confidence she has in this body that she's so much more comfortable in. And
Hmm.
she's always been confident in showing off her body, but there's just something different about her, which comes with accepting who you are and loving it, you know?
For sure.
I was right. Deja's next. So, Aman, tell us a little bit more about Deja's performance, and your thoughts.
I like that she took a risk. I like that she really tried to involve RuPaul in the physical comedy aspect of it, being very flirty, putting her butt in his face and all of that. Like, now I really feel like that would have been a lot more of like a Rue gaggy funny moment if Rue were more willing to like break out of the character. I think that's what she really wanted him to do, was like to make him chuckle and laugh. I think that Rue was like really in his bag with this. He wanted to be the straight man, I think, to really
Yeah.
give them a lot more room to play. But I think that she still, she went for it. It was fun. It was very consistent. I understood what was going on. I chuckled here and there. I think that she did a good job. And this whole prolapsed lotus, I think, is hilarious and fun. And yeah.
I agree with you. I thought that, for me, Deja, I think, was the first of the people who were in the top to interact with RuPaul. And I was like, oh, Deja is winning this by far. And then I saw Bosco come out and kind of, really shake up my expectations. And Irene really killed it. And I was like, oh no, I is Deja gonna make it into the top? I don't know. And when she didn't, I felt like, oh no, this is season 14 for her again, where she does really well. It just, she doesn't get the flowers. And so she had to be her own flower for this. I felt like this look, I don't know if I understand the front with the back, if that makes sense. But I love both sides of it.
Yeah.
The hair is also just like a wild choice, and I'm here for that. It's not something I expect from Deja or generally anybody. I feel like this is what what's her name from season 17, who was like the like quilt person with the face. Like, this is
Oh, Joella.
Joella. Yes, thank you. I feel like this is an idea that like Joella was trying to do something akin to, but just like didn't do it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But I don't know. I felt like if runway was a factor in making the top two, then I think they made the correct decision, because I did like Bosco and Irene's runways a little bit more than this, but I do appreciate the creativity, the boldness, and the
Hmm.
color of it. Next up, we have Phoenix. Aman, what did you think about Phoenix's performance?
Um, I liked the metaphor, weather the storm. I thought that being the tribute to her sister that she lost during COVID was very, very touching.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily know about the execution of it. I think that the first part of it, like the stormy part, is very fun. But the sun on the other side, it doesn't really give sun to me. I don't know if it's because like one of the rays is like straight down her back, so it's giving more of like a geographical like artifact. I
Yeah.
don't really get like, beautiful sunshine coming out of it. And I think that her hair sort of still sort of like maintaining the same windswept um look in the back too sort of also takes away from it for me. So I understand what she was going for, and I like the general silhouette of the dress, but I don't know about the execution, especially when she turns around. And in terms of her performance with Rue, it was kind of like Olivia's to me, where it felt a little sort of like hitting, yeah, a little paint by numbers, essentially. Just hitting all of like the necessary beats of this murder mystery story, but not really giving me more of what I want from it.
She reminds me a lot of the students I work with on job interviews who don't expand upon their answers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I might say like, and why are you interested in this position? And they might give me like a one sentence response. And I'm actually looking for about a 5 or 6 sentence response, right?
Mm.
That's how I felt Phoenix was like in the challenge. The answer she gave was serviceable, but you don't want to be serviceable in all stars. You want to be an all star. You want to have an all star answer. You want to stand out. And I do think that she had more confidence than she did in the Winner Winner Chicken Dinner song. But it's kind of monotone, one note kind of feeling from her.
Yeah.
I really like this outfit. I understand what you're saying a lot about the sun. I think the sun is supposed to be like the ray of sun that like shoots out, but I agree with you that it doesn't necessarily come across like that. I do actually really like the touch of gray on her back where like the cloud is supposed to be kind of like taking over that gray. And so that's really nice. The front, I don't like the silver part, that like metallic silver part and like in the front. I wish that it was just this really beautiful, what is it, like chiffon and such, that really is like a storm. I think that skirt is gorgeous. I wish it went all the way up. I don't really necessarily like the front top portion of it. But that
Mhm.
said, I was weeping when she told the story of her sister. It just really, really hit me. I was very fortunate to not lose anybody that I loved or knew to COVID, but it is. I think we all forget that there's a lot of people who lost somebody, and weathering the storm every single day. When you lose somebody, whether it's to COVID or not, obviously it can be super hard. So having something like this that is just a love letter to her sister and to her experience and a means of processing, I just really connected with that, and I thought that was beautiful, and it made it more poignant for me looking at it than when I watched it on the runway. So I just want to give her those props for it, because I agree with you that the concept is there. There's elements of it that are absolutely gorgeous and cool. I love the windswept hair in the front, but there's a few things that I would have finessed a little bit differently in
Yeah.
order to make it really pop.
Mhm.
And I believe our last queen is Aja, who played both Mary Kate and Ashley, the twins. Um, and as RuPaul said, stole the scene as a body on the ground, which I was like, I think that's a backhanded compliment. Um, I I felt like she really struggled with the improv portion. It was a lot of her just repeating the same thing over and over, and I appreciated her being in character. It's just I don't think that improv is hard if you're not used to just like putting your mind in a place of like, well, we improv every conversation we have, so therefore just be as natural as you can and such. Sometimes you're just not quick like that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I just felt like, this wasn't necessarily a challenge that she has done well with in the past. I thought that she did a serviceable job. But it was, yeah, I don't know. I think I thought that she was okay in the challenge, and the runway is okay to me as well.
Yeah, the runway was okay. I got some of the references that she was going for. I just don't know if the tailoring of the dress was good enough. There were
Yeah.
parts of it that felt a little unfinished or a little rushed or just not. It just needed a little. That dress just needed a little bit more TLC, I think.
Hmm.
And then I thought that her charisma really did shine through a lot during the beginning portion of her interview her with Detective RuPaul. Um, that was fun, and I did see that she was really really trying to give it,
Yeah.
but it was a little like, Aja, this is not it's not as funny as like I would like for it to be. But she did a good. She certainly gave it her all, and I feel like she was
Mhm.
definitely a lot more animated than maybe Olivia was, maybe than
Yes.
Phoenix was. So
Yes.
I think this definitely was a safe performance. And I think she sort of had like a little bit of the benefit of being able to act out scenes that were like in flashback mode, because that was a
Right.
little bit more structure than it was like just pure improv. So I think that was sort of like a bit of a smart choice to make, because
Yeah.
then you can kind of rely on just like the story doing some of the work for you. So if this were just a regular season of All Stars, I feel like she would have just been safe this episode and just skated through.
I completely agree. I think that this outfit has a lot of potential. I just agree with you. I agree with you. I mean that it just feels like it's not quite there
Yeah.
yet. I I don't know. I think that Aja did fine in this episode. I preferred other people. And she killed it in that first episode. So she's very much still in the running to be one of the queens who will go further. As we saw, the final two or the top two for this episode were Irene and Bosco, and Irene loses her second lip sync in a row. Bosco pulling out the win. And I agreed with this because I felt like Bosco had the more graceful movements and face. And Irene looked a little too manic in the face for me for this song. If she, which is, I know that her face is much more, I say the word severe a lot, but I mean like it's very angular and painted boldly, and she's somebody who will give face and make it, intensity here. But Bosco knows how to do soft and make it intense, and I thought that that's what she did really well in the lip sync.
Yeah, and I mean, she certainly had the garment to do some of the work for her. It was a lot of fun just watching that garment tassel through that air like that. It was a lot of fun. So I think that
Oh my god, it was
Bosco
gorgeous.
definitely took it, which gives her, what was it,
3 points
3 points?
plus the 1 point from the week before, so she's at 4. And then we have Aja with an additional. Well, actually, we don't know what the queens did with the points right yet.
We don't know. We'll find out at the beginning of next episode.
So Irene has 4 points. Bosco has 4 points. Aja has 3 points, and everybody else has 1 point.
Yes.
So if we were to say, oh, we're moving forward, those are the three that would be moving forward. And I got to be honest, I do think that they are the three that I feel like so far have really shown an evolution, have shown uh, confidence in who they are, and I think would be three great queens to go forward. That said, I can't wait to see what happens. I can't wait to see how this turns out.
Yeah.
This
All it
next
takes
episode.
is for one of these queens that has not won to win the challenge and then win the lip sync, and then that will tie them up and make things a lot more interesting. But yes, if either Bosco, Aja, or Irene win the challenge within itself, and then on top of that win the lip sync, and then it's a guaranteed moving on to the next round. So we'll
Excellent. Anything else to discuss, Aman, from this or for these first two episodes?
I don't think so. I'm just really excited to continue on and get started with the next batch of queens after next week.
I know. I'm excited to see what happens next week, where I assume we're going to figure out what is going on with who is moving forward. But we will have to wait until then. I anticipate that from here on out, it's only one episode each week, but it
Mhm.
would be kind of cool if they did that episode and the premiere episode for the next group. I actually kind of love if they were doing that. But I doubt that's how it's going to be. So you can catch us here on RHAP. Be sure to click that subscribe button both on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Aman, where can people find you if they are hoping to keep up with you personally?
You can find me everywhere at Aman Adwin. Check me out over at the Diary Room with Matt Lagori, where we are going over all these brackets of Big Brother players to see who's going to be the best in the end. It's been a lot of fun thus far. Check us out over there.
Yeah, I think that All Stars got their bracket formation from the Diary Room podcast. So just saying. And you can oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say just cut the check.
That's right. Cut that check, RuPaul. Come on. We know you got it. And you can catch me at AugustaWind11 on Instagram or Beth-Dixon on Blue Sky. And I'm going to be kicking it with Aman this summer, just chatting about Drag Race All Stars and excited to do so. Please, like I said, leave those ratings and reviews. It helps to push the algorithm for our podcast. And also click that subscribe button on YouTube. Thank you to the whole RHAP team behind the scenes, and we will catch you next week. Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.